All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to part two, A New Energy Field. The conversation continues with Dr. Harry Ramnarine and myself, John Ruman. This is the second webinar we had. We had it just a couple weeks ago. For those of you who were not involved in the original one, Dr. Harry is going to kind of briefly go over that to give you input on what you may have missed. But we will be going into more, and I'll let him discuss this deeper. So real quick, if you're having challenges getting on, it's because of a registration thing. And as emails are getting sent to us, we're responding, and everyone else who's responding, we should have this fixed by everyone getting emails from those who they're reaching out to. So again, we apologize. But anyway, so with that, also the best browser to view this in is an updated version of Chrome or Firefox. Outside of that, there can be issues and all that. Two things to note. On the actual chat section, there is a chat section and there's a Q&A section. So on with us today, besides all the regular attendees, are actually several doctors in Ishtara Center's practice. Dr. Roshan is here, Dr. Nilash is here. I'm not sure if Dr. Adriel is here, but he may be. So they're here to answer questions and help you. So if you have questions of the practice or other health-related questions that come up, that's what that's for. The Q&A, all you have to do is click on the Q&A and you ask a question there. That is really for the last half hour of this webinar, and we'll ask Dr. Harry those questions. So the Q&A is for Dr. Harry, and the main chat is ideally for the doctors or just chatting with the other attendees. So real quick, let me tell you briefly about Ishtara Center. Dr. Harry Ramnarine began practicing roughly 44 years ago as a medical doctor, and up until a couple of years ago, he was doing that daily, throughout all the week, and he retired. And when he retired, around a very similar time frame, and Dr. Harry can correct me, they actually amassed this beautiful big building, which is a 3-story, gorgeous center. And Dr. Harry has a big office on the second floor. It's wonderful, and he does a lot of research now. So he's not retired and relaxing. He's retired and continuing his research, which is how he came up with the whole dark energy concept, which you'll be hearing about in a moment. And then the whole intention of Ishtara Center is to uplift the consciousness of Trinidad and Tobago as well as the rest of the world. So I'm going to be kind of in the background today. So I'm going to be handing everything over to Dr. Harry. But my name is John Ruman. If you haven't met me before, I'm a business coach consultant, and I'm deeply passionate about living a highly vital and energetic life. And the doctors at Ishtara are my doctors, and me and my wife's and all the people I know, that's our doctors. So I'm very, very proud to be here with you tonight. And I'll pretty much be in the background helping with technical challenges, questions, and all that kind of stuff. But with that, I give you Dr. Harry Ramnarine. The floor is yours, Doctor.
Right. So back again, welcome everybody across the globe. I guess we have more people from Trinidad. But just to say a little bit about Trinidad, because Trinidad is the land of the Holy Trinity, which means that matter, energy, and information come together. Trinidad is the land of the hummingbirds as well. And you would have heard me say in the last session that the core of all human beings is actually gold. And the core of hummingbird is also gold as well. So we have something special here in Trinidad. But not to leave out many countries, we like some parts of the US, the Caribbean, South America, there are lots of hummingbirds all around. So we're not just unique and left alone. But Trinidad is also the land of the leatherback turtles. And that has a lot of interest for me because the leatherback turtle is like a huge seed. And they have been coming here for thousands and thousands of years to nest in here. And we have a season where, these leatherback turtles coming, and a few months later on, we have all the hatchlings and so on. So having said that, it's a special place, and I'm happy to be born in Trinidad. And so I bring you greetings from the land of the Holy Trinity, the land of the leatherback turtles, and also from the land of the hummingbirds. So Today, I'm going to try to look at the concept of what we have been talking about the last webinar and take it a little bit further. We might end up having to do a little bit more technical stuff, so bear with me. I'll try to make everything as simple as possible as we go along, because you need to understand some of this, because this is actually the future of healing and spiritual growth. More the emphasis on spiritual growth, because if we're growing spiritually, we're lifting our consciousness, we're lifting our vibrational levels, then healing becomes automatic. So I want to sort of touch on something that has come to my mind just about early this morning, and that is the concept of what is truth. And we're all talking about truth, and looking at all of this that's happening in the world today with COVID, it's hard to understand what truth is. I've come to the conclusion many years ago that truth is something that is within. It is not something outside. So I call truth istence, I-S-T-E-N-C-E. Whereas what is manifested, when truth is manifested in the physical world, it becomes existence. And everything of that nature is existential. So what happens in the world of duality, however, is that it is always polarized. So here you have quite an interesting scenario in the world where people have a view about coronavirus 19, COVID-19. And then you have opposite of that. And that is natural. It is normal. But here's what we do. We all get polarized one way or the other. And we get caught up in the net of one side or the other. And what I'm suggesting to all of you out there is don't be polarized. You will be stuck at a vibrational level if you get polarized one way or the other. So we have a lot of videos, and we have been listening to a lot of stuff on YouTube and so on. And you have one view and you have another view, and then you can't decide what is the truth. So I'll give you a little bit of a story. When I was quite young and not as developed as I am today and experienced as I am today, that is probably in the first 10 years of life. A woman was charged for murder of her husband with another individual. And I would be listening to all the elders in the village talking about this trial going on in the courts. And then eventually what happened is that the court ruled that these people should be set free. I was a little bit confused at my age because, I kind of wondered, okay, here's a man who died, and here's the court saying that they are all free to go. And they were set free. So in my mind, I started thinking, if he died and the court is saying these people are free, what I started to think in my own way of thinking, the man did not die as far as the court is concerned. But yet he died and he was buried. And I kept running this in my mind. He died, but he didn't die. He died, but he did not die. And it was a bit confusing. Then I get to realize later on, I thought about, well, is it possible that the police should be investigating further to find out who really killed the man? And then I was told by one of the elders in the village, that case is finished. So it left me feeling kind of a little bit dry in the mouth, wondering, so really, did he die? Because on the one hand, nobody killed him. And if nobody killed him and is responsible for killing him, maybe he didn't die, but he died. Anyway, I wouldn't go further in that, but that was my kind of situation at that age, wondering. And I thought about that and I thought of sharing that experience with you because that is about truth, both sides of the truth, that he died and he did not die. And eventually what happens to us is that we get caught up in duality. So I've heard over the last few years as well, the president of the US, Donald Trump, and people have all feelings, so negative feelings about Trump and President Trump. And then you have others who like him. And I keep saying to people, don't get polarized. Just learn. You will shift your consciousness when you live in a world when you don't get caught up in duality. So don't judge. Don't judge anything. Don't judge anybody. So we have COVID-19 and it is upon us. And whether it is man-made, whether it is actually something that is just happened naturally, it does not really matter. I have given you a way of thinking, a way of practice that you can actually get past all of this. So to me, it does not really matter whether it is man-made and is designed to kill people or whether it's a natural virus and whether they are lies and they are truth. As far as I'm concerned, the truth is what we see totally, all of it. And if we accept that, then we out of the loop of being stuck at a lower vibrational level. So I've learned in my life just to be an observer, watch things, don't judge anything, don't agree with anything, don't disagree with anything. I'll give you another example. In our country, we have elections, and this is an election year in our country too. And we have two parties. And whatever one party says, the other one says something different. And that's the world of duality. If you get caught up with one side or the other, you're stuck again. You can transcend the level of awareness where you are now when you are not caught up in duality. So what I'm urging people to do is don't get caught up in the world of existence. Dive deep into yourself. Get into the world of istance, which is something that is within ourselves. The truth is really within, and nobody can give you the truth. Nobody can explain truth for you. When you enter into the silence, when you go within, when you get quiet, when you stop analyzing all this stuff outside here, whether this is true or not true, then you will be caught up. So if you listen to London Real, these guys are part and parcel of what is happening. And so all these guys are now thrown out of YouTube and so on. And they formed a new platform, but it's about a fight. Duality is about a fight. We no longer need to fight anything at all. What we can do is to transform and transcend the consciousness of the masses today by helping people to get above that. But you know what? The system and the systems in place are designed to cause us to be polarized all the time. And as long as we are polarized left or right, up and down, then what is going to happen to us? Eventually, we get caught. We're going to remain right where we are. So this is very important, an important message that in order for us to increase the dark energies in ourselves that we talk about, I'm going to go back in that in a minute. In order for that to happen, we need to really learn how to come to the center, come back to ourselves. Truth will be revealed to you from within yourself, and it comes. But as long as we get caught up in what is right and what is wrong, what is this or what is that, it is not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. So I'll leave you to think and ponder on that. So let's get back to all of this. Cells. You're made up of about 60 trillion cells. And you're also made up of about 600 trillion microbiomes. These cells are tiny. They range from the nanoparticle size to bacteria size. That's interesting because they outnumber your body cells by at least 10 times, maybe even more. But here's the thing about microbiome. I have labeled them the God cells inside of us. They're listening all the time, constantly listening to what the programming is in our informational field within ourselves. And they actually take the form, they actually morph depending on how you're thinking. So where do you want to be? You want your microbiomes to move into a direction where they can actually create good bacteria which can work for you in your body. They can actually create vitamins, minerals, they can create proteins, they can create fatty acids, they can create stem cells, they can create more immune cells, they can create more mitochondria. Guess what? You have everything there within your body. And when we start talking about dark energies within a cell can create matter. It means that cell can divide and don't need proteins from the outside. Matter can be generated within the sphere of dark energies. I'll tell you what. You were one cell in your mother's womb, and that one cell became so many cells, differentiating itself into organs, your skin, your eyes, your nails, your limbs, your liver, your brain, so on. All of that happening within the sphere of the dark energies. That's a point you need to ponder on a little bit more, because from one cell, where all the material comes from, is it coming from your mother? From the blood of your mother? Only a very small fraction of that material is coming from your mother's bloodstream and what she takes into her body. Most of it is coming straight from the source in the universe, which is in every cell. Every cell is godlike. Every cell is like a galaxy. Every cell has the capacity for creating matter as well. But we have not known this. It has been existing. We get a small amount of dark energies through sleep, through meditation, and that's about it. What happens to us is that we never understood that there is the capacity for an infinite amount of dark energies to be created. So let me go back a little bit to sort of saying to you that dark energies were actually existing in our bodies, but it's been suppressed. So many years ago, I actually started looking at people who were chronically ill, and that's been a long time, over 40 years in my practice. And I realized that when we do a lot of exercises that brings energy, chi, prana, life force, whether it is qigong, tai chi, yoga, breathing, and so on, what we were doing is enhancing the chi in the body, the life force. But people still continue to age, and people still continue to deteriorate. People still die, despite all of what we are doing. And that's what I found. And I thought, something does not add up here. Something must be happening. There's something beyond all of this. And I started searching. I see patients, and I did mention the last time about cancers as an example. That has taught me a lot in life, a lot about functions of human beings. So when we have cancer, when a person gets a cancer, there are two possibilities that actually could happen. You can go to chemotherapy, and chemotherapy is useful. It actually can kill cancer cells, but at the end of the day, you will also die with chemo, meaning that what is going to happen is that your healthy cells will also die. They really mess up your entire microbiome system as well. So you will extend your life to some extent. You will feel okay for a while, but still the demise is there. Then you look at the other side. So we practice eating healthy foods. We do breathing exercise. We do all kinds of good stuff to enhance the life force. And guess what happens? We feel better. But remember, cancer cells also depend on light. Cancer cells depend on light to grow. Cancer cell depends on food for multiplying and creating itself. So what happens is that you're going to feel better, you will last a while, and you will still perish at the end of the day. How do we deal with all of this? This led me to start thinking there must be some solution. There must be another way out of all of this. And that is when I discovered, I started looking, and I discovered there's an energy that is suppressed in most people. How did I come about all of this? So I'll introduce the concept of an algorithm. An algorithm is actually what I would consider to be a set of information that is designed to have an effect. That's a very simple way of looking at it. And John, I can ask you to put up some of these algorithms. Thank you. So I'm just going to show you some of this stuff here. So here's an algorithm. I've been playing with this since I was in primary school days, which means like 5 and 6 years old. And these have been around for ages. And I've been playing up with this particular one for a long, long time. And then, I'll show you another one. This is a 4x4. And in this one, this is a very interesting one, because what I've done with this, and I'll come back in a short while, all of these squares, 4x4, in any which way you add them up, it will add to 34. Whereas in a 3x3, you will add up to 15, any which way. All right, so let's go on. So I'm just showing you some of the algorithms that we've been working with over 30-something years. This is another algorithm, and it's 9 by 9, 81 numbers. And right here where I'm outlining, if you can see that, you have one square there, and then you have another square outside, another one, another. So this is a multi-concentric square, 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. And then we go to another one. This is a 289. That is 289 number, 17 by 17. And here you have, I think, 8 squares, a square within a square, so to speak. Now, I just want to go back because I think I may have missed one. All right. This is an interesting one because I will go back over these at some point in the talk, because I'm going to show you something very interesting. So let me just go back and define everything in the universe is made up of. John, you can take this off if you like. Yeah. So everything is made up of 3 things in the universe: matter, energy, and information. Matter, energy, information. In the Chinese, it's called Jing, Qi, and Shen. In science, it's called matter, energy, information. Now, matter is just what we see as the manifested form in nature, everything that you see. This is a crystal, it's a piece of rock, it's written joy on it. And That is matter. What is matter made up of? Energy. So when you get down into the atomic level, let's say you start with gold and you go to the atomic level of gold, it is different from the atomic level of copper, because the atomic level of gold, you have 79 electrons, 79 protons, and so on. When you go to copper, you have 29 electrons and 29 protons. So it's the same at an atomic level. But at that level, we would call that the energy level, the energy aspect of the matter. So matter is energy. And then if you go to the subatomic particle level, where you no longer have protons and neutrons, you have quarks and electrons and other small particles, then you're talking about the informational level. So matter, energy, information. And when you look at a human body, we do have a material physical body, we have an energy system, and we have an informational field. To bring you up to date with that in terms of what you already know, the informational field in us is called in all religions the soul. So you have all three of them. It's interesting that when we talk about algorithms now, it's a set of instructions to create an effect, a desired effect. And for many years, I've been sort of doing research with that. Eventually, I came up with what we are using and what we plan in the future to do more research with and develop. That is, we can instruct and inform the informational field in you. Let me give you an example. This is a piece of quartz that I'm showing you here. It's quartz, right? It's shaped, but earlier this morning, what I did with this is using alchemy, meaning I can transform this quartz, although it's quartz at the physical level, I can transform this quartz into exactly 100% pure gold. So this crystal works just like gold. It will behave just like gold at a vibrational level and also at an informational level. It is just going to take a long time before the molecules and the atoms sort of rearrange itself to become physical gold. It might need some physical aspects like the pressure, the environment of the environment, maybe the temperature, and so on, to be able to convert it into gold. I don't have the time for that to wait. It may take 1,000 years, but this crystal behaves just like gold. So I just brought this to tell you because the gold is the actual core of human beings. All human beings are the same. We all carry gold in the center of us, the core of us. And what makes the difference between myself and everybody else on the planet is simply how the other elements in the universe they are arranged around that core. What does gold mean? Gold means intelligence. Intelligence. We all have the capacity for intelligence. What is intelligence? It is the ability to face the unknown and to deal with it without any prior knowledge. It comes from within yourself. But it also has at the core, compassion. Intelligence is intimately related to compassion. And what is compassion? Is the understanding that you are one with everything, that you are connected to everything, that you're one with the whole. So if you carry a little bit of gold that is really purified and energized for your body and tuned to your body, then it will help you to activate the intelligence in yourself. What we have done is to take this gold and divide it into 12 compartments. And we will talk about that when we go back to the algorithms. So going back to now, the dark energies. So we started to create algorithms. And I will introduce to you the concept of spin. Everything has spin. If you take a molecule, it has a spin. One molecule can spin in the right direction and the other one in the same molecule can have a left spin. So this is a spinner here. So I'm just spinning it here just to let you see. And right now it is spinning in a clockwise or in a direction I consider to be a right spin. And now I'm spinning in the opposite direction, counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, and it's a left spin. That is very important. I can tell you, we've tested hundreds of patients. If you put a spinner on the circuit and you test any patient, and if you have a right spin, it means that your health is not in a good place. If you have a left spin, then generally the entire body might be in a good place. But you can have a left spin and you have parts of your body with disease or disturbances in your health, and then we need to correct that, or you may need to correct it. So how do we correct our spin? I will give you some ideas. The most important thing is to bring your spin into the best place is to be no spin at all, neutral. That's the 0 point that everybody talks about, 0 point field, zero energy. When you reach to that point of transcending duality, that's why I started off by saying, please don't get caught up in this way or that way. Observe everything that is happening in the world and understand that that's the way it is. And when you can be going in peace, go back and read and study Desiderata and part 1. And then when you can go in peace and walk in peace, you will be in tune with the dark energies. See, we have all been polarized by the society, by the world, the way it is. So coming back to all of this, we are going to talk about how, and quickly go through that, how we actually can enhance dark energy. And we gave some of these techniques. What I said to you before is that fasting does that, but there are so many different methods of fasting. In the world, everybody knows about fasting, but the correct way to enhance dark energies is actually to fast beyond 12 hours. When you fast for 12 hours, that's very easy. You can do that overnight. But every hour you go after the 12 hours, up to 5 hours, you enhance the dark energies, and the curve goes all the way up to a very high level. And after 5 hours, you're filled with dark energies. And when you have dark energies, you can actually generate substance. You can generate food. The cells can actually regenerate. And you don't need the food from outside. So we all enjoy good food. And a lot of people out there who are the foodists and who create good food and who enjoy good food. And I too enjoy eating good food as well. So we're just going back to the techniques again. So when you fast, I'm not going to suggest you start with 17 hours. Just go 1 hour, 2 hours, and increase the time slowly. The next thing is that what you do is breath. By the way, through meditation and through sleep, we get dark energies, but it is very small. Most people do not know how to meditate. Most people do not enter meditation because so many people tell me that they meditate. When we test them, the dark energy is extremely low. In fact, over the last couple of years we've been testing, most people have been below 4, like a 3 or 2 or 1 with dark energies, which means that we are all degenerating and we are all going to die. That's the way it is. So my idea is to teach people how to enhance the dark energies. When you have had a lot of dark energies produced at the cellular level, we do not have to worry about COVID. We do not have to worry about cancer. We do not have to worry about 5G. Let them bring on the 5G. I tell you what, 5G is a high frequency, and we are all moving into a higher frequency. All we need to do is to tune in and into the dark energies. The dark energies will then take the high frequency and move us even further up. So there's no danger to the dark energies, to the 5G at all. It's a part of the process. So don't get the feeling that 5G is going to kill us. It's a higher frequency. I'm not saying that 5G is good or bad. What I'm saying is we're going to use it. I'll tell you what, this is a cell phone. And it took me 12 years, and everybody told me that it's impossible. It took me 12 years to be able to bring a cell phone so that into a place where the energy, the spin of it is totally healthy. Just to go back to spin, I'll tell you, we can measure the spin on anything. All food that you would consume has a left spin that is healthy, all the foods that you take, whether it's a herb, and herbs are nothing but food. Herb is not really medicine. When people said in the past, let food be your medicine, medicine be food, that was just a part of the truth. Food is to sustain the body. It's for building material if you don't have dark energies. So that's a substitute. It's food. We need food. Have you realized that we human beings, we poach on everybody else. We destroy everything else to sustain ourselves? That's the most selfish way to live our lives. Can we reach a point where we can shift our consciousness, where we don't have to really go and kill all these animals to eat anymore? I'm not suggesting vegetarianism just right away. Let that be natural as we move along. The point I'm making is that, we are not generating, we are just like parasites on the planet, eating from the animal world, eating from the plant world, and so on. Okay, the plants are there. I can tell you, one day I listened to a plant while I was eating, and the plant is so happy to move from the plant kingdom level, which is one lower vibrational level, to enter into the human kingdom with a higher vibrational level. So that's another way of looking at it. Now we can apply the same to the animals too. But the thing is that if the animal is willing to allow that to happen, then that's okay. If the plant is willing to allow it to happen. So therefore you have to have a sacred connection with the animals if you want to eat it, and a sacred connection with the plants if you're going to eat it as well. And when that is happening, then it will shift consciousness. The animals will shift consciousness within the human being. And the consciousness of the plant will also lift from the plant kingdom all the way up to the human level. So getting back to spin and the stuff, whatever is right spin is not healthy for you, not at all. It is pathologic. I can tell you right now that all homeopathic medicines are actually right spin. They are pathological. We come back to that and we'll explain that. All medical drugs are pathological, so they have a place. They do have a place. If you have a lot of pains and you need a painkiller, then you take a painkiller, and it is like curing like. That's what it is. It is pathological. We have looked at the research on that. We looked talking about quantum biology, quantum physics, and all drugs, physical drugs, they are all right spin. All food, on the other hand, is left spin. Now, in terms of medicine, for instance, medicines can be either zero spin, left spin, or right spin. If it's a right spin, then it falls under the category of drugs and also homeopathy. And what we are doing, and we're doing this for the future, is to bring homeopathy back into the space, not in the way it was used in the olden days, in the old times. I'll tell you why. In the old times, we diluted, and people didn't understand the quantum aspect of dilution and succussion. If you take a plant, like turmeric, for instance, and you actually dilute 1 part in 9 parts and keep taking that and diluting it, you get to a point where you have no more molecules. But people do not understand that we are talking about energies now. And further, we are talking about information, which makes it very powerful. But at the same time, in the medical world, in the scientific world, we tend to think not beyond matter. We don't like to go into the quantum field. We don't like to enter the quantum state. So you take turmeric, it is a food. Turmeric by itself will lift your energy levels up to a certain point, but it will not heal. It is a supplement, it is food, it is concentrated food, and all herbs are like that. So herbs cannot be a medicine. But what you have to do is to convert the herb into a right spin. And if you convert it into a right spin, then you have a totally different spin of the same thing. So I can take turmeric and using an algorithm, convert it into a right spin. Then you have what is equivalent to a homeopathic medicine. And if you have a homeopathic medicine, you're dealing with the law of attraction. And in the law of attraction, what happens is that like will treat like. It's very simple. So that if a person has a disease X, then you apply X, which is the same, which is pathological, and they cancel each other. I did talk about 2 things last time. In Boeing jets, in the airplane industry, noise is canceled in the cabin by simply taking the noise of the aircraft and feeding it back into the cabin. Just one bit phased off, which simply is saying, in a simple way, you feed the same vibration back into the cabin and keep repeating it, and you cancel out the noise. That's how the Bose noise cancelling headphones operate. Okay, so going back to dark energies, and we'll come back to spin again in a short while. Dark energies, another way of doing dark energy, the most powerful way is to reducing your breathing to 3 breaths a minute. At 4 and 5 and 6 breaths a minute, you will just be relaxed, but you don't develop dark energies. You have to push yourself further. And when you stress yourself, when you put yourself under what I call positive stress through fasting, your cells are going to start generating dark energies. When you put your cells under a bit of positive stress by reducing the breathing rate, and when you get to 3 breaths a minute, what happens is that you start producing dark energies. The curve starts to go this way, up. And when you get to 2 breaths a minute, then what happens? You get a lot more. 1.5 breaths, even more. And if you can go to 1 breath a minute and do a few of that, then you will generate a whole lot of dark energies. Now, we've been living on this planet without dark energies for a long time, and it will take some time for us to reverse the whole process. But the first thing that will happen is that you will have more energies, you start removing disease patterns, and we are all carrying disease patterns. There's a program called 3Ds, disease, degeneration, and death. That's one aspect, and all of us fall under that because that's the paradigm in the world. There's another paradigm which comes from the truth, which is the divine level. It's life, the source, God, and health. So health, life, source. Those are the two paradigms. And it will take us a little bit of time to move from the 3D program to the other program of life and the divine and health. So what we are showing you is with the use of, with the activation of dark energies within each cell, we can lift our consciousness. We can get rid of all these abnormal cells that will be part and parcel of degeneration and death, or even disease, and we can actually move to a higher level of consciousness. That's what it is. So now to explain a little bit more, and I will go back to the spin because that is very critical in all of our discussion today. We have algorithms that are zero spin. So John, you can actually put me back on to the slides. Thank you. And I will show you what we have found. So today it is extremely easy, very easy. John, are you there? Yeah, it's very easy to actually create new vibrational patterns. So here's one. This particular one is the only algorithm that we have. It's a multi-concentric square. As you see, I am outlining one of these squares and another one. So this particular square, it's a right spin. And if it is right spin, it means that all drugs will fall under that category and all homeopathic medicine will fall under that category. And I will tell you right now that turmeric, a lot of research was done, a lot of research, many papers have been written about turmeric. But here's why it's not working. We are using turmeric in the left spin mode, which is food and energy. The minute you move turmeric into the right spin, there you will have a totally different medicine that can help to prevent cancer in your body. So that's a little bit of information there. Okay, now, the first set of algorithms that we worked with, and these are huge. Now, these are only the base algorithm. This is not what we do. We calculate using the first number. That's our way of doing it, and we change that. So sometimes we may have 7 numbers in this circle, in this square, and so on, and all of that changes. So using this algorithm, we are able to create 12 patterns, and they all come from a ratio 1/13 to 12/13. And the ratio is calculated using an algorithm, creating an algorithm. And from that's 12 algorithms. From 1/13 to 12/13, you have 12 formulas. Believe this or not, they actually, each one resonates with one of your organ systems. And it is pretty accurate, almost 100% accurate, so that whatever you can test, and within 5 minutes, we can say to you which organ system, whether you've done an MRI, you've done ultrasound, you've done blood works, and so on, we can identify where the major problem is using algorithms. And this is not new. We only started this about 32 years ago. That's a short time ago. But today, you can have algorithms testing your oxygen levels via a watch. In your blood, you can check your blood pressure. You can even do an electrocardiogram with an algorithm in a watch. So we're not going too far away into the future. The future is already now. You remember the time when Dick Tracy? How many of you you don't have to show your hands because I can't see you. How many of you know of Dick Tracy in the comics of the old? And Dick Tracy used to talk about a two-way watch. So in those days, you're talking about at least 60, 70 years ago. And he had a watch and would communicate via the watch, like just talking into the watch. So that's a technology that is here today. So this particular formula is used for testing. And I can tell you the ratio of 1/7. Let me just take over this. Siri is trying to give me a message. Anyway, so going back to what I'm saying, you can actually identify precisely all the chakras. If you use the ratio 1/7, if you divide 1 by 7, you get 0.142857. and that's the brow chakra. And by moving the numbers around, you will have all the ratios between 1/7 to 6/7. And then you have the 6 chakras of the body. And you can identify which chakras precisely. Everything is in the universe. Everything is in mathematics. And there must be some mathematicians listening to this, and I'm sure they may be smiling from ear to ear. So with this type of algorithm, we can identify areas in the body. Now, the other algorithm I'll show you, I'll just skip this one, and we go to this one. So what you're looking at is the algorithm for all plants, all food substances, anything that is food. Even if you make vitamin D in a capsule, it will fall under 81MC. That's multiconcentric. And that's how we label it. So when we calculate, for instance, an algorithm for, let's say, a particular food, the number 1 on the list here, that is, you go to 1, and then you calculate what 1 is, and the whole algorithm there. The computer will change the whole thing, and you create an algorithm. So 81MC is all about food. And so turmeric as a food would fall under that. But then you can take turmeric and go backwards and create a powerful healing remedy, like using this one and calculating the exact algorithm for turmeric, which now would have a right spin and therefore deals with pathology. So what I'm saying is that disease is all right spin in your body. Health is all left spin. Food is all left spin. Right. Now let's go to zero spin. So I've given you 2 algorithms that are right and left spin, and we can use them. So let me see here now. So this is our famous one. What you're looking at here is actually 16 numbers, and in all of these formulas, I will show you. I'm circling 4 in the middle, and the 4 in the middle is the core of all of us. The 12 on the outside deals with our connections with the quantum field, the God field, what we might consider to be. And this particular algorithm has, for me, defined what is called astrobiology, how we interact with the quantum field and how the quantum field is interacting with us. So whether you go into the concept of astrology, which is real, astrology has to do with your relationship with quantum field in yourself, and what is in the quantum field means the planets, the houses of the zodiac, and so on and so on. So you have 12 of these. So what I've done over the last couple of years is to take one and move it into each of these positions and then reorganize all the numbers so that you have 44 ways in which you can actually add up 44 ways. Incredible. This is a perfect. Actually, I put this one up because this is the one I started with a long time ago. When I held it in my hand, I realized there's so many ways in which you can add up to 34. And this one is 44. And I felt here is a perfect order in mathematics, and it's an algorithm. What else is a perfect order in the universe but the quantum field, the field in which we live in, field in which we came out of, and the field in which we return to. So we've made 12 of these and 4 of these. The core, this is your core self. And we are all messed up at the core because the goal that is in ourselves have gone into fear. You know, one of the things about fear is that fear separates you from the cosmic field, the God field. So if you really want, to actually disconnect people from the source, all you need to do is to create fear in the population. And has fear not been around with us since 9/11 in an intense way? It has gone up and the curve has gone up. Terrorism, and so on. And we are all under fear. So the thing is that we are all put under a situation where fear becomes a part of our life. What is COVID doing for us? Creating fear and panic and terror again. And what it's doing, it is shutting you away from the source. I'll give you a little hint. I do not recommend cannabis. I have never taken cannabis, but I'll tell you what. I still today would not, even if it's legal, I would not recommend anybody taking cannabis. It has nothing to do with it being good or bad. Most people who are against cannabis, and some of the religious people in the world and some of the psychologists, the thing is that it is all abuse. Cannabis is totally, if you measure cannabis, and now I can because I can keep a small sample and measure it, and I have a very tiny sample, good quality one. And when you measure cannabis, it is left spin. It is nothing but fool. How you can make it a medicine? I would prefer to use it as a medicine and only recommend as a medicine. I'll tell you something interesting. Cannabis if you use this algorithm, go back to this, and you convert this the cannabis into this algorithm, you get cannabis with a right spin. And if you can use our cannabis with a right spin, it's like curing. Like, I'll tell you what it will do. I'll tell you what now. It's quite interesting. The program of disease, degeneration, and death, the concept of fear inside of us, all types of fear can be removed step by step with cannabis. But it must be a right spin, not a left spin. If you take it as a left spin, it will help, but it will not, it will help you. But let me put it this way. It's like if you eat a good plate of food and you don't feel good inside, you don't feel nourished inside of you, eat another plate and you eat another plate because it's so nice and tasty. And then you will end up in trouble. That happens to a lot of us. The same with cannabis. It would help if you take cannabis in the herb form, it is a left spin. It's like food. So you take some of it, you feel some benefit from it. But then what will happen, you have to keep using it over and over until it becomes an abuse. And then you have all kinds of problems with it. I can guarantee you, if somebody put a gun at your head and say to you, eat 15 plates of this good quality food, you will be sick. Every organ in your body will be overloaded. So if I have to prescribe cannabis, I'm going to make it into an algorithm, and it has nothing to do with the physical substance. We don't even have to keep it around us. We have already done this, and we have tested this, and I'm revealing this for the first time. The program of 3Ds, disease, degeneration, and death, can be actually using a good titration way when we see patients, is to give them the precise amount of dose that they need for the time to remove fear and to remove this program of disease, degeneration, and death from our lives. I've given myself and all the people that I work with 10 years to remove this program so that we can actually come to a place where we are free of this program. Interestingly, if you can get rid of fear, and the fear resides right in the middle of the algorithm in the previous one, this square is really a zero spin. This square, we have 16 of these, but we use mainly 12. That is, the 12 is one in different positions, and each one has a different number. So if you're going to move it around in different, like this square will not do anything. It's just a base square. And what we are doing is calculating. This number might be 745. It might be 962, and so on. So in our work, we calculate and create the algorithms that we need, for our patients. And so these 12 actually can help in treating almost every illness that you have. Because how do you treat? What you're doing is actually enhancing. You're taking the person into, whenever you take a dose of the medicine for a short period of time, you enter into the 0 point state. What is happening in the 0 point state is actually you're generating a whole lot of dark energies and you're shifting your consciousness. Everything is happening. So viruses cannot exist in dark energies. Cancer cells cannot exist in dark energies. And so our lives are going to be much better. It doesn't really matter what the world is doing on the outside of us. We're going to continue, all of us, to practice these techniques that I've shown you. And when we need help, then I can tell you right now, all of this information is spread around different parts of the world, so it will never be lost. And we have 2 or 3 people who carry these formulas, and so it will never be lost for the future. So if they try to destroy what we have in Trinidad, then it's available elsewhere. So rest assured that we have made sure that it exists in different parts, and so we will never be out of it. So I've given you 2 clues there. Turmeric, when you take it not as a food, but you use the right spin of it, and we convert it using the algorithms, then you can help to prevent cancer. Cannabis can help, and that's what some of the people who are very close to me are hearing this for the first time, that if you take the cannabis and you do the right spin, so we don't even have to carry cannabis anymore in the office as a physical form. We can throw all of it away because we have actually worked out the algorithms, and then that can be used to remove disease, degeneration, and death. It's all based on fear-based. There are 2 things that really disconnect us from the source, and that is fear is the big one, and the second one is worry, stress. They're positive and negative stress, but it's really mainly negative stress. And when you worry, you actually are heading towards your grave, and you never solve any problem with that. And that's one of the reasons we do not want homeopathy in the world, is that homeopathic medicines, they were replaced by medical drugs. And there's nothing wrong with medical drugs in the sense that if you know how to use them and use them for short periods, medical drugs were never created to be used forever. And that is what got me away from the traditional medicine. When I told a patient who is diabetic that you have to take a tablet for the rest of your life, I put myself in the position of the patient, and I felt I will not accept that. There must be another way. And so I left the hospital after 4 years. And that's my story, the beginning of the story. So the last one that I didn't talk about is this one, the large one. And this is a very powerful one. This is a 0 point square as well. So this takes you to the zero state. So I noticed somebody asked a question about how can you change a spin-off? Well, the dark energies will do it for you. All the techniques that we are giving you, whether it is the fasting, whether it is the breathing technique and slowing down the breathing, starting at 3 breaths a minute, will actually help you to change the spin. And when you actually create dark energies, you actually get into what I call a 0 point state, 0 point feel as well. And that's when dark energies are released. And that's when your whole body is transforming itself. The other technique that is very simple to use as well is take a deep breath and you just hum. And as you hum, I want you all to bring intention into it. Everything in your life should have 3 components. What I mean by 3 components, you're eating food, but increase the vibration of it with a thought. And then put the intention in the food or what you want the food to do to you. When you're drinking water, it's the same thing. So I'm encouraging everybody to live life at awareness, constantly using intention in everything you do. It just takes seconds to do it. And when you put intention in the exercise that you're doing, I want you to think of the dark energies, have the intention or the information of healing, nourishing, healing, and transforming your body so that you give the dark energies a little bit more information in order to do its work. So you're giving it instruction because the dark energy will be released, but then you're not giving it instruction. So let me repeat: nourish, heal, transforming your body. Right. So we've spoken about, let's go a little bit about the homeopathic principle. Homeopathic principle is an interesting one. We are trying to move that into the 21st century. It's all quantum healing. It's all about actually creating an algorithm. So instead of repertorizing and doing a history and takes a long time, we can actually now work out exactly the disease pattern in the patient. What is the algorithm that equals that? And then you apply that. And that's how you can remove diseases. So there are 3 ways in which we can assist people. Left spin stuff would actually be food. And you do need some food. As you get more and more advanced, you need less and less food. You're getting to the point where you become a light being, and light being doesn't need much food. A light being, you're training yourself to function with less and less breaths per minute. And so a light being needs less and less oxygen as well. So the other thing is that with the dark energies, your entire body can be rebuilt in the way you want it to. But it will take some time. We have a long time ahead of us, and let us go with it step by step. We're not going to allow it. I'm not in a rush to get there. I'm taking my time and helping others to walk along the path with me. So it's not about trying to get there and then looking back to get others to be there. I prefer to walk with you, carry you along, and help you to get there. So the other thing is that diseases like high blood pressure, the big problems, we talk about cancer already, but let us look at high blood pressure, heart, I think I have a note here, heart conditions, and diabetes. Those are the 3 big ones that we see. I can tell you, if you start generating dark energies on your own, these diseases will disappear completely. They're not there for life. The other thing is that if you have the techniques and if you, let's say, have the knowledge of how to access algorithms from us, then we can help people in a positive way to help to remove those disease patterns. Because in the near future, we will develop the algorithms for the diabetic state, for the high blood pressure state, and also for the coronary artery disease. And all those can be wiped out eventually. So next thing up here. Right. So I think we have covered quite a bit there, and what I want to talk a little bit about is actually coming to the end of this hour. It's almost 6 o'clock. To actually put across to you the idea of how we continue to live our lives in the near future. We need to practice. We need to dedicate a certain amount of time to a practice that would encourage the dark energies to be activated inside of ourselves and to start working for us. The dark energies get to the God cells in you, the microbiome. They also influence your body cells too. I'll tell you what, if you could produce more dark energies, people have been doing a lot of discussions and a lot of research with telomeres. If you lengthen telomeres, you can have a long life. I'll tell you the simple secret. Enhance the dark energies, telomeres will remain where they're supposed to be. To be long, and cells can divide and whatever, and you will, you don't have to do anything anymore. It's such a simple technique. Just simply reducing your breathing to 3 breaths a minute, then 2 breaths a minute, you can actually help yourself. We can transform human beings through breathing, through the breath, through practice of what I consider to be fasting, intermittent fasting, and also through humming as well. And they're very effective techniques. If you have a problem in any area of the body, just simply take a deep breath and hum, and do it long enough. You will find that the dark energy will start to be generated, and you can regenerate any part of your body. Our bodies were actually made that. I mean, we came into this life, and I've changed that. We came into this life. We are manifestation of the divine. So let us not start thinking that we have to get old and die, that we have to degenerate. That was never in our script at all. It's another virus. A virus came into our bodies, and I mean, I'm talking computer language here, and messed up the entire programming. And that's why homeopathy is so important. If homeopathic medicine, way beyond the use of drugs. You see, drugs can help you. I'm not here to condemn that. It's important. There's a place for drugs. But I'm always thinking that drugs are only for short term. In the same way, homeopathic medicine is only for short term. If you can identify the pattern, you can identify the disease energy, which is X, and you give X, you're going to literally get rid of X in your body. And when that happens, what happens to you is that the dark energy starts to flow, because it has always been suppressed. It is always there. But because of our belief system, if you ask 100 people if they're all going to get old and die, they will tell you yes. And I have asked that question even up to yesterday, and 3 people in my office said, yes, definitely, we're all going to die. It's hard to change that paradigm, but we can. I'm committed to one person at a time. Anyway, so to continue what I'm talking about. So just by the way, vitamin D is very important in our health, but it's a food, again. It comes from the sunlight. It's created in your body and helps with energy. But I'll tell you something interesting that I found, and this might be totally new to most people around listening to this. If you take the right spin of it, which is the right spin of vitamin D, it will activate, it will remove the blockages that have been placed on our thymus gland from ever since, and the pineal gland. And then you can have a lot more activation of the pineal gland, and the thymus gland can start to resume its original function. You know what happens when we reach puberty? When we start producing sex hormones, the pineal gland is now changed completely. And there's a link between pineal gland and also the thymus gland. And the function of the thymus depends on the pineal gland. And when the pineal gland function starts to reduce and gets lower and lower as we get older, and it starts at puberty, because the thymus gland starts to shrink after puberty, once you start producing sex hormones. That discussion is for another time, because that's a whole lot of different stuff. But with vitamin D, and if you create the right spin of it, you can actually enhance the thymus gland function, and you can enhance the pineal gland function. And I'm talking about not putting it into a place where it becomes pathological. It does really bad things in your body, but it's all within the realm of life itself. It's not going to go to do anything crazy in your body. So the next thing is getting rid of fear gets us back in control and in tune. The other thing I wanted to mention is our heart is very important in our body. It's a powerful electromagnetic field, and it generates this, which goes into the whole body. And I'll tell you what disturbs that. It's when we lose our peace and serenity. If you want to have a good heart, if you want to get back to living a long life with your heart working perfectly well, the secret is not a herb, not a drug, whatever. It is getting into a place where you can be calm and peaceful, or peaceful and serene under all conditions. Start practicing. Start training yourself to be peaceful and calm under all conditions. When you can do that, your heart is going to function in a powerful and magnetic way. The heart energies will move into the brain and help you along the way. It will move into also the rest of the body, activating the sacral bone to produce even more dark energies. We naturally produce dark energies from the sacral bone, which rises up the spine and goes towards the brain. The heart enhances it, gets up to the brain. That's the making of a genius. All of you listening to this conversation, you have the capacity, because of goal, you have the capacity to become intelligent beings. You have the capacity to become all, compassionate beings. But because very little goes up to the brain is separated from the rest of the body. The natural tendency is to be selfish and greedy and to only search for self, constantly pulling stuff from the outside. We want. That's why if you look at food, if people cannot get food, everything goes haywire. People will riot, people will kill for food. But if you're peaceful in yourself and you're creating dark energies, if you have to go without food for several days, you can manage. You're not going to lose any weight. You're going to get to a place where your dark energies can produce all the matter that you need to have to sustain cell function and even cell growth. So think of coming to the end of my trip here and my journey with you. And I don't think I have anything else to talk about. So we covered a few things. I just recapped and talked to you about the dark energies and how we can actually produce more dark energies. There's another technique I can show you. I will give you it. I'll have to stand up and maybe you can see. It's interesting. This particular technique where you cross your legs. Now, you may not be able to see me there, but if you cross your legs at your knees and you stand up, that's what I'm doing right now. And you cross your arms at your elbows and you look up and you breathe. About 5 breaths a few times a day. If you do that, that has anti-aging effects. It also generates some dark energies as well. It enhances lung function. And there's a relationship between aging and the lung function. Funny enough, all of this came to me because I took 2020 and I tested through many patients, and I found a rune called Ingus. And Ingus, I don't have it here, but Ingus has that particular pattern. So this is a rune yoga. If you cross your, I don't know if I hope I could, no, it's not easy for me to show you that, but this is crossing at the elbows, your knees, you're crossing your legs at your knees and you're standing like this, looking upwards, and you breathe in and out slowly, deeply. And so you're activating the lung. If in that position, you can only breathe from your belly, diaphragmatic breathing. And so 2020, the rune is Ingus. 2020 is COVID as well, and it attacks your lungs. So practice this and your lungs will be stronger, but it also has anti-aging effects as well. One more important thing before I end is the number pi. And pi is interesting because pi is a link between us and the quantum field, whether we know it or not. It relates to the crown chakra, the only chakra outside of the body, which is pi. And with pi, you can actually connect to the source as well. So if you just close your eyes for a short while, all of you, and just focus on the symbol of pi. And as you focus on the symbol of pi, automatically you start moving into connection with the quantum field. Pi is the connection with the quantum field. And if you do that, you actually also generate dark energies too. So it's a simple technique. So get a picture of pi, and we can see that, and put it up on your wall and look at it, then close your eyes and meditate on it for a short while. It puts you in tune with the crown chakra, opens up the chakra. So you have enough techniques to practice. And there I will end the conversation. And hopefully we have some time for 6:10. We have some time for talking to some of you.
I'm here, Dr. Harry. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So real quick, I want to show you because we have this. This here I'm pointing at is
Right.
the symbol that
Ingalls.
Dr. Harry's talking.
Yeah.
Ingalls, right there.
So it relates to
that-
lung. It relates to the year 2020, and it has anti-aging effects, and it generates dark energies. So if you notice, you could put it up again, John,
Yep.
and I can point out this here. So you have the top part of it is your arms crossing at your elbows, and down part is crossing at your knees, and that's the core of yourself right there. So with breath, the breath is activating the core and creating dark energies in at the core of every cell. That's how powerful it is. So this actually helps. That's a very powerful exercise. So please, all of you, start doing it if you can. The only difficulty you'd have is really crossing your legs and remaining stable. But stand next to a wall, or maybe you put a chair close by, just in case you get out of balance. All right. Thank you, John. You could take that off now.
And again, you were saying your hands are you cross here. You don't do the clasping thing. You cross.
No, just cross. Just cross like that.
Cross at the elbows, and then look up and breathe.
Looking upwards, yes, exactly.
Okay.
And you're breathing.
Okay.
In that position, you could train yourself to develop this strength back into your diaphragm, because most people don't breathe unless you're doing yoga and breathing techniques. The diaphragm is stuck. If you stand in this position and you try to breathe, you are only able to breathe from your belly. Extremely powerful.
Okay. And 5 breaths, right? Okay. Yeah. So we have a bunch of questions. So which is great. Thank you so much for all of that. So real quick, left spin is health related. Right spin is towards disease degeneration and health.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and death. And the ideal is no spin, which is the 0 point, right?
Right. That's
And
when
then
we
can you
generate dark energies.
Okay. And then can you explain real quick, just in like a quick thing, what dark energies are, and try to make people understand that it's a positive thing, even though there may be an association with dark being negative.
Yeah. All right. Well, we dealt with some of that in the last talk, and
Yep.
I gave some examples. I said to people, well, I already gave one this time around. In the dark energies from one cell that we all were one cell at one point, half genetically from your mom, half from your dad, and coming together. It's the dark energies that transforms it into a human being. It's the dark energies that causes a caterpillar to become a butterfly, a whole transformation in the cocoon. It's the dark energies that creates a plant out of every seed when you plant it into the earth, whether in a pot or directly into the earth. So the dark energy is not really something negative. We have been given the wrong impression, the wrong thinking. Dark energy is the original state of the universe. Dark energy is always there. We put on lights and it would appear like the dark energy has disappeared. But if you take off your lights immediately, dark is still there. It's never moved. It is always there. And our cells can generate dark energy. But over thousands of years, we have been given information to suppress the dark energies. And fear is the big one. Once you have fear, once you get fearful for any reason, then dark energies are less and less. So what we're doing now is providing the techniques to help us. Even spinning, somebody asked about the spin. If you spin in a counterclockwise direction, you will also generate 0 point field, and you'd also generate dark energies. I've done a lot of that. I don't do a lot of it now, but I do from time to time still. But if you know the whirling dervishes, you spin in a counterclockwise direction, and you just keep going. And as you do that, you are actually generating more dark energies too.
So at one point, thank you for that. At one point, you were discussing food consumption and all of that, and a couple things you mentioned. One, you were talking about. So I'll just go. Kristen had a question. Are there any conscious practices we can do to have a deeper connection with the food we eat?
Right. The thing is that whatever we are going to eat, we can bless it. Blessing simply means being aware of the food and having a connection with the food. What I do simply is using thoughts or intention. What I do with the food is actually, when I eat this food, it's a very simple process. When I eat this food, it takes me seconds. This food will nourish and heal my body. And at the quantum level, the food is changed. first of all, we need to clean up our food because there are so many chemicals. There isn't a food out there that is purely organic. Very, very rare you find that. And that's why we developed a technology. It's called Sonara Pure, where we can put stuff on there. But I'm not here to advertise anything. I'm not trying to sell anything. But we do have a technology that you can take the food and put it onto a plate, a glass plate, and at the quantum levels change. In the same way we can change a crystal into gold, we can change the quartz, the glass on the plate into what we want it to do. So it acts at a quantum level of the food and changes the food. So you can take a food that is a toxicity of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 and then bring it to 0. And that way you can reduce the amount of toxins in the food. And when you do that, actually, John and the others, you actually move the food. So you can have broccoli, for instance, and it's healthy, but a lot of chemical sprays are put into it. And what happens, the broccoli would have been a left spin naturally. And now all these chemicals now make it into a right spin. It's toxic. Now, putting it on the plate, you can actually change it into a left spin. So now it's healthier to eat.
Okay.
But with time, you would learn how, as you produce more dark energies in your body, you will transform the food as well, easily. Okay.
So by blessing it or setting forth an intention, you'll actually move it towards the left spin.
Yes.
Now because Anjani actually asked that. How can you enhance the left spin of food? And so you said the Sonara Pure would do that, but also just the intention, blessing the food, would actually have a similar. Okay.
Remember, you are actually a very powerful human being. You are carrying the divine energy, and it is just by your thoughts, your intention, that you actually can transform anything. But you see, we are always feeling that we are not able to do this. We always think that it cannot be done, and we have been made to think that way. Our intelligence have been literally depressed and suppressed for ages.
Now, you talked about people eating less and less. Shari asked a question about breatharianism. Are you saying that man is really a breatharian, maybe at his core?
Well, let's look at it from 2 points. If you're living in the world of the physical reality and you are shut off from the other world and you need a lot of food to eat, right? Then if you look at yourself as being a purely light being, you probably need no food at all. Now, where humanity is moving is just like this. We are going to lift our vibration. The potential that all human beings have is to shift our vibration level to such a high level that we can move into the quantum field, disappear and appear wherever we want to, and come back when we want to. That's what it's all about. So just to take up the question again, if you live in that world, then you don't need any food. But we live in this world and we live in somewhere in the middle. So we need to eat a little bit of food, but we don't need to eat a whole lot.
Okay.
If the less that, when your dark energy is so small, you would find yourself eating more, a lot more, and you would be constantly looking to take from the universe constantly. You need more sunlight, you need more energies, but light itself from the sun comes from the dark regions of the sun, from the void of the sun. So I'm going to say to you that every cell in your body produces light and darkness, 2 types of energy, but the light is pretty strong when you're born. As you grow older, it gets less and less, and even our mitochondria gets less and less. And what happens to our system is that we are already starting off with a lot of dark energies, and then it's suppressed as we get older. By the time we reach puberty, we have very little dark energy. We start to deteriorate. We start to age from the time we reach puberty. We just go up to about 30-something years, and then we start going downhill. And that's the way of human beings. And we have all accepted that. It's now time to challenge that and change that around and truly become the type of human beings that we should be, enlightened beings.
Homo Deus, as you said last.
Homo Deus. That's the word. Yes, Homo Deus. Homo sapiens is what we are.
Moving into Homo Deus. Now, so the couple things on the breathing. You mentioned the slow breathing technique, like 3 breaths per minute. How long should the practice be? And is it something that should be done once a day, multiple times a day, or is just a certain length every day that someone should be actually doing that?
I think the minimum, you need about 20 minutes of practice for yourself every day. Somebody said, we all know that 72 20-minute period in the day. So take 20 minutes for yourself. I do like 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. But if I have more time at any time, I could do easily 15 or 20 minutes or whatever. And as long as you're enjoying something and it's working for you, just keep doing it. It is not a chore anymore. When you get into dark energies, you feel so good. You feel so contented and you're at peace with yourself. And all of us wants to be there. And the longer we stay there and the more dark energies we produce, it will continue throughout the rest of the day.
I love it. Now, going back to that original exercise that I have here on the rune, someone is asking how long they should be doing it. I seem to remember you saying 5 breaths. And then someone else was asking, does it matter if one arm is in front or one knee is in front? Like, does that matter at all?
No, it doesn't matter which one goes forward. And
okay.
I'm not saying, you see, when we start, we may not all be perfect at it. It's like practicing yoga. The whole intention is such that your body is going to be in that, let's say, shape and that posture, and just practice. With time, it will get better, because with time, you're going to be producing more dark energies. The body is going to be rejuvenated, regenerated. Yeah.
And someone's asking, how can we correct the spin of vitamin D? I thought that was an interesting question.
Well, that's a technical one. It's almost like trying to say, how do you make a drug? So we know how to do it. In our practice, we would be eventually able to produce, vibrational medicine. We call them the Sonara essences, and they will be available for people and to use.
Okay. Hold on one sec. Yeah, someone actually said dark energies give you a high. By the way, I've been doing the dark energies.
You said so early on before we.
Yes. Before we went on, I was giving my feedback, and I definitely noticed a bit more. I guess you can say high experience. Okay, let me see. What other questions do you guys have? I'm mostly done with the questions.
Somebody asked how to eliminate fear. Well, then that's all the dark energies again. The more dark energies you have, and in terms of therapeutics, we will also make available the cannabis in the right spin, and then people can use that from time to time. You don't need to use it all the time. Just take a few doses, and then so one bottle could last you a long, long, long time.
Oh, I have 2 good questions here. So one's from Vindra. How can we check the spin of foods or medicine?
Okay, the thing is, you have to, if you want to learn how to do it, I think one can start with a pendulum, and that can help you. You'll have to train yourself. You can do a muscle test as well. Those are simple things that you can do. So any food that you pick up that has a right spin for you is going to make you weaker. So you can also train yourself with a pendulum as well.
Okay.
So if you're in doubt, then at some point you can get our plate, and that will change all the food into left spin. In fact, if you use lipstick or lip gloss, you will not believe most lip gloss are very, very toxic, or lipstick that women use. And if you put it on the plate, it will go into left spin, meaning that it's no longer toxic for your body. Yeah.
Yep. No, you're good. You're good. And a couple people have said they were just a little confused about the squares. So can you give like a brief synopsis again about what the squares represent? My understanding is they help.
These are all basic algorithms that we discovered many, many years ago. And I never found anybody. I tried connecting at the beginning when I started this with a lot of people who were talking about what's called magic squares. So I started seeing them as algorithms. And there's a long story behind this. I was looking at digitizing remedies and herbs and so on. I'd gone to Germany, and it was costing me a whole lot of money to be able to do this. So I came back and started thinking of, maybe there's a better way, a simple way of doing it. Then I started experimenting with these algorithms. And, you take an algorithm, like each one starts with number 1 and ends up with whatever. So a 3 by 3 would end up with a 9 as the largest number. 81, 9 by 9 would end up as 81 is the largest number. So these are just basic algorithms. They do nothing. What we do is, if you want, let's say, to write an algorithm, a left spin algorithm that is food for the turmeric, you would have it in number one, maybe a particular number. It might be 981, for instance. I don't remember. And then the whole formula changes. So you now have an algorithm that does that. Okay. So if you want the left spin of turmeric, then you would use a 36, that's a 6x6 square, and then you have to calculate. So that's our work. That's what we've been doing for all these years, creating remedies based on information. So they are called informational medicines. And these can be available. Like, for instance, if someone's asked me to do a testing from a distance for them, and they send me a fingerprint or a photo, then I can decide which algorithm, and I send them the algorithm.
Okay.
That is possible, you know.
Now, there's a health coach here from Oklahoma, Maria. Thank you for joining us. She says, how can I learn more about you to help my clients here in Oklahoma?
Well, the answer to that is teach them all the techniques that we have been teaching. That's a powerful start. For me, you know, if you practice those things, they're just as good as any medicine. So since 1999, we actually, and Maria, you probably visited us a few years ago. We met, I think, at Hyatt in Port of Spain. And we chatted quite a bit, but we lost contact with each other. So maybe you need to send me some information again. But if you teach people the techniques that we have sort of repeated in this webinar, you can help all your clients. The breath with humming, the different postures that we have given. Those are all, you know, techniques. In the first webinar, I shared how to sit so that dark energies can be generated. You have to get the sacral bone out. But again, you know, it's difficult in a webinar unless we're speaking directly and you're getting the photographs and showing how it's done, and that's easier to do. But you have enough information there, Maria, to actually teach at least 3 or 4 techniques there to help people to start the process. As long as people practice, they will see results, definitely.
And 2 more questions. I think we have time for both these. This one's from Elizabeth. How do you live without fear? Because you mentioned fear a lot as taking the God force, like making us fully disconnected from the God source. So how do we live without it?
Well, the thing is, fear is embedded in us because we have been taught and programmed to be that way, all right? And we start when we are young and we have no fear at all, right? And then as a little boy, you're walking on a wall and you can manage and without falling. And your parents are saying, no, because your parents cannot walk on the wall. They are much older and they will go off balance and fall off. So they think that you would be the same. So actually, fear comes into ourselves and we are programmed that way. But as we generate more dark energies, guess what is going to happen? You can remove fear. If you use marijuana in the physical form, as people have done all over the world, they will gradually remove fear. But the problem with that, as I said, is that most times people get into a state of addiction, meaning that it makes them feel good and they will continue using it and not get very far with the left spin, which is the herb. If we use the right spin of it, the right spin, then you can start removing fear. So that's a technology. That's like a remedy. But if you start practicing dark energy release through the exercises, fear will gradually go away. I can assure you that.
So through the exercises, the fear will eventually disappear.
They're the most powerful. That's what I depend on in my own life. Every single day I practice most of those techniques.
Okay.
Even when I see clients, I see patients, I teach them and I'm doing it too. Like each patient coming into the office, I would say, let me show you what 3 breaths a minute will do. And they struggle, and you know, and I would teach them this, and I'm, you know, if you teach people, then you're doing it as well.
True.
Yep.
So we have an architect, Robert's here, and he said, do you think architecture or the space you live in can contribute to enhancing one's ability to find the equilibrium, to get the dark energy?
Of course, the thing is, all space, the space that is around us, is all part of the quantum field. So if you have no space, no structure around you, you are in the universe. You're in contact with the stars and the earth and everything else. Maybe that's the ideal in one way, but at the other end of it, sometimes we need shelter and we need to have a space that we can consider, you know, to be more private and so on. So all architectural designs, they all play a role. And we know about Feng Shui, for instance, and how things are placed and how the entrance of the space and so on. how energies move, how wind comes into the space. So, I don't need to go too deeply in that. I think that the structure, the way you design spaces for people to live in is very important. And people, one of the problems we face with a lot of architects in the world is that they like to create what they want to create. But a good architect would sit with you, understand you, and understand your energies, understand the energies of the family and what are your requirements, and design the spaces in sync with that. But what I have experienced with a lot of architects is that they have a way of doing things. You go to one architect, they have a style. Another one has a different style. And it may not fit in with you at all. So I guess a true architect will just look at you and then work with you, have a lot of discussions about what you want. And a good architect, if he's in tune with himself, would also know how to help you in the way of designing your space to work for you.
I love it. So we have this will be our last question, so we can keep in the 90 minutes. So this is from Nicholas. Is it possible to design routines to follow? My thought process here is that there's a lot of information here to absorb. So where do we start? How many days do we fast? How often do we do breathing techniques, and which one and when? It'd be great if we could follow a beginner to advanced program that would guide us to these techniques, etc.
Well, the good thing is what I can suggest is that let's say the beginner, practice one technique of enhancing dark energies per day, whether it is breath with humming, or the breathing technique by slowing down the breathing technique, or even if you choose to spin in a counterclockwise direction. So at least you remember the technique, because our minds tend to operate like this. If we don't practice something, we tend to forget, and it goes out. And so we forget all about it. So that's one thing, so that you can start doing one thing every day for a few days and then switch to something else. And then you would learn naturally, intuitively, how to combine techniques. Like in the last session, what I did was actually show you, if I take off my glasses and you palm, and you're sitting with the sacral bone out, like I'm sitting right now, and you palm, and you can take a deep breath and you can hum. So you've put in 3 different things into one, 3 practices into one. Throughout the day, I would suggest, I've given you this technique to enhance the lung function, and it has anti-aging effects as well. Maybe throughout the day, just spend 2-3 breaths, start with 1 or 2 or 3 breaths, just get into the routine and put that into the day's activities. Then you have the fasting. I would suggest just try to do 1 day a week, and just start with 1 extra hour, then increase it to 2 hours. And eventually what you can do is practice maybe just 3 times a week, where you go for, let's say, 14 hours or 12 hours plus the extra hour. So what I'm suggesting is go very slowly. Don't just go and do 17 hours. Get your body accustomed to this transformation and the change as well.
One thing I'd like to suggest for those who are trying fasting is there's apps you can get in your phone that you can say, let's say you're 12 hours now and you're trying to increase it to 13. It'll let you know when you're at 13. So you can glance at it, open it up, and it'll give you an update. So that's been very helpful for me, because I've been making them longer and longer. And I feel hungry sooner than the actual time of the fast is up. And it gives me a little mental motivation. Okay, I got another 90 minutes and I'm able to get through to the desired time that I want to fast. So that's been very helpful for me. There's a lot of apps on your phone that you can get. Okay. So that, our time is up. So everyone, thank you so much for taking the time. Ron had a quick question. So just to be clear, the exercise with the hands above the head, this one, doing the 108, does that increase dark energy? That one's designed to put the sacral bone.
That's designed to help the sacral bone to get out. You have to practice that every day until you get it right.
Yeah. So that's for the sacral bone. Yeah.
It's a beautiful sound, the note C and G, just to bring us to the conclusion and a good end, happy ending, so to speak. Right.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. The replay will be available till
bye to everybody.
Night.
Hope you had a good evening.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Harry. And if we didn't get your question, we'll always do our best. So thank you, everyone. Have an awesome night. Dr. Harry, you're awesome, and we'll see everyone soon.